Hi, Crime Junkie jury. I'm Lauren Conlin, and this is your daily Diddy Digest. As of this morning, June 16th, juror number 6 has officially been removed from the jury. Now, on the evening of June 15th, the defense wrote a letter to the judge saying that if juror number 6 was in fact removed, they would move for a mistrial. They are really honing in on the fact that they believe there is a racial bias here, and it's just not fair because this man, was one of the few Black jurors on the jury. Now, I did see his replacement today, who is also a male, and he did look to be significantly older than the former juror. So they quickly brought up a potential second juror issue, though we didn't really get into it. So I will keep a close eye on how that unfolds. We started the day off with a summary witness, Ananya Sankar. If you heard me on the live stream today with Brandy Churchwell during the verdict watch for Karen Reed, I did discuss some of this already. But just a quick recap, she is a paralegal specialist at the U.S. Attorney's Office, and her job is essentially collecting evidence for trial and just going through everything to ensure its accuracy. So we saw a lot of charts, a lot of graphs, a lot of text messages, a lot of BlackBerry emails, and some recordings. And all of this information that she was going over came from KK's phone, Christina Karam, who was Diddy's right hand chief of staff for pretty much most of what we've been seeing during the duration of the trial. So I want to say 2008 until 2024. But what we saw was information from her phone from March of 2016 up until February of 2024. We saw text messages between KK and other assistants, text messages between KK and Cassie, between KK and Jane. And again, all seeming to corroborate what we have previously heard. So there's texts about getting cash, cash to bring to hotels, cash to get from security, to give to Diddy or Cassie at these hotels. We saw texts from Jane to KK asking about $5,000 to $10,000 in cash that she could give to Diddy. We saw text messages about Cassie talking to KK about some of the violence that she's endured at Diddy's hands and how she can't do it anymore. Coordinating hotel stays. This is KK and other assistants. And then KK talking about, I believe it's drugs. They're talking about a package from Guido. She asked Jane to pick it up. And then we saw other text messages involving things that need to be taken care of when it comes to Guido. We heard audio recordings from Sean Combs to Christina Karam saying, hey, can you take care of that? Meaning Guido. And then we saw some text messages and eventually recordings from December and November of 2023 between Jane and KK and then Jane and Diddy. And one of the exchanges was really Jane telling KK how coerced she felt, how she felt exploited, and also how Diddy was blackmailing her about a sex tape video that he was threatening to show to her, quote, baby daddy. And then KK wrote something like, I haven't talked to him in a while, which I found to be odd because she was his right hand. And all of a sudden, Cassie's lawsuit drops in 2023 in November. And all of a sudden, here we are a month later, and KK saying, well, I haven't really talked to him. We also heard recordings or voice notes and different recordings of audio conversations, actual phone calls, and then separate voice notes. But one of the audio calls was between Diddy and Jane. And we had kind of heard this one before where he just says, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't know. I thought we were just kinky like that type of thing. And he asks how they can move on. What else? Oh, then at the end or before the lunch break, I should say, we saw text messages between D-Rock and Diddy and then D-Rock and Mia. And we had already kind of seen these during Mia's direct testimony, but what we kind of saw and how it was laid out for us was the fact that D-Rock and Diddy were texting. And by the way, this was November of 2023. And D-Rock was using some nice little heart emojis saying, "Love you, bro. I'm here for you, bro. Love you." And Diddy would say, "Love you. Thanks so much. That means a lot." And again, this was pretty much a few days after Cassie's lawsuit had first dropped. And then we kind of go into February of 2024, where they talk about meeting up, and then D-Rock says, "I'm gonna hit up Mia." And then after he would hit up Mia, it would show him going and telling Diddy what Mia said. And then at one point, he was like, "Yeah, I talked to her. It sounds like she's out of the country," type of thing. And we would see D-Rock text Mia saying, Diddy just wants to talk, or he would call him Puff, like, "Puff just wants to ask you some questions. He doesn't want anything from you, et cetera, et cetera." And then during the cross-examination by Tenny Garagos, we did get some context around what I thought was kind of confusing during direct. So during Mia's direct examination, she was texting with D-Rock. We saw this thread, and at one point he offers to send her something, and the prosecutor was like, "What did you take that as? What did you think he wanted to send you?" And she said, "Money." And I didn't really understand how she knew it was money, or how he meant money. And then we saw a text from Mia as they were chatting back and forth casually, where she kind of says, "I'm out of Skrilla, and but it's okay though." And that's when D-Rock's like, "Let me send you something." And she's like, "No, no, no." So I think the defense was trying to point that out, like, "Look, she said it first." And we also saw text messages of the defense wanted us to know that as soon as D-Rock said, "Hey, it looks like she's out of the country," Diddy stopped contacting Mia, because we actually saw 6 outgoing calls to Mia in February of 2024. So, yes, then after lunch, we saw a special agent from the government who was testifying to more charts and evidence that was organized by the government. And basically, it was just more corroboration of travel records. We saw travel records and flight records, itineraries for a number of escorts: Clayton Howard, The Punisher, Paul Arthur, and text messages between Diddy and Jules Theodore, who was also, we saw some flight itineraries. We saw texts between Cassie and escorts setting different things up. What else? It was a lot of these. It was a lot of texts back and forth. And then they would also match some of these texts between Cassie and the escorts to hotel invoices. So if she was like, "Meet at room 416 at the Trump Hotel," we would then see, the following day, a checkout invoice for the Trump Hotel room, et cetera, Frank Black, the same corroborating statements that we saw previously. Now, I think the most interesting part of the day was when the jury was shown 3 separate videos with headphones. We were not allowed to see in the gallery. Neither was the overflow room, of course. But each video, or 2 videos, were about 11 minutes, and the third video was 39 minutes. They played about a minute and a half of each video. And the second video, we definitely heard moaning. We were all looking at each other like the press. We were like, "Okay, I think this is an S tape, a sex tape." So yeah, not certain, but pretty certain. Especially because one female juror also looked totally disgusted, while the male jurors were like watching it pretty intently. And yeah, that was probably the most, I don't want to say like it kind of woke us all up, but a lot of this testimony can be a bit mundane. And then we ended at around 3, so thank goodness it was a bit early. And the government had just said they want the defense to narrow their witness list down. They have apparently a very long witness list. They'll never be able to call all of these witnesses, Maureen Comey said. So they had said by Wednesday, this Wednesday, which is the 18th, they will have their final-ish list, at least crossing off who they don't want to call. And the government said they will be done with their case by Wednesday. I think they're planning to call one other summary witness, and then a former personal assistant, Brendan Paul. And then the defense, their first witness they're going to call is Vashta from Bad Boy HR. So yeah, that was the extent of today. So thank you so much for watching the recap, day 24, the United States versus Sean Combs. I'll be back for day 25.